Tourism Pathshala, it will transform your dream into reality.
Good morning, my dear student. Today we are going to learn reinforcement theory. First of all, we try to understand what do you mean by reinforcement theory. Reinforcement theory seeks to explain what type of consequences motivate different people to work. Consequences, a situation, impact, which create the impact, which create the motivate the different people to work. And this theory has given behaviorist B.H. Skinner in 1953. It posits that behavior depends on its consequences. Each and every day, according to behaviorist, behaviors depends on the consequences. Behavior that is accompanied by favorable consequences is likely to continue, while behavior that is followed by unfavorable consequences is not likely to be repeated. So consequences can be divided into two parts: the favorable situation or favorable consequences and unfavorable consequences. The favorable consequences, when the favorable consequences will arise, is likely to continue to motivate the people to do that particular work. When the case of unfavorable consequences arise, people will not likely to be repeated that way. Based on the principle, reinforcement theory describes four contingency method of certain behavior. There are four components of reinforcement behavior or four contingency method. Number one, positive reinforcement. So what do you mean by positive? It occurs when behavior is followed by favorable consequences that encourage repetition of that behavior. That is called the positive consequences of favorable situation. For example, in the case of we are the student of management, so we try to understand from management point of view. A superior may praise the employee for job well done. When appreciate the employee get the motivate to do that work, that is the favorable consequences. Other common things, the positive reinforcements are recognition, promotion, money, approval, fringe benefit. These are the positive reinforcement. Now the second thing is a negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is a discourage certain behavior. It occurred. Negative reinforcement is the unfavorable consequences. It occurs when behavior is accompanied by the removal of unfavorable consequences that result in strengthening of that behavior. The unfavorable situation is a create the negative reinforcement. As an example, when employee may work till late at the office to revise a sales presentation to prevent being rebuffed by the boss next morning. Rebuffed means there is a criticism of someone. To avoid some criticism of the boss, so employee try to do their work to late. So in this example, rebuffing serve as a negative reinforcement that encourage avoidance behavior. Next component is the punishment. It's a discourage certain behavior. It occurs when the administration of an unfavorable consequences discourage certain behavior. Giving an employee 2 days suspension from work without pay for showing up drunk in example of punishment. The punishment means discourage certain behavior, any kinds of negative behavior. And number 4, that's called the extinction. Extinction in meaning is the situation something no longer exists. But it is also considered here as a target behavior. It occurs when the target behavior decreases because no reinforcement follows it. For example, research suggests that when managers stop congratulating employees for their good performance, that performance tends to decline. that is a target behavior. The example is very interesting. When managers stop congratulating employee for their good performance, the performance tend to decline. Now, next important thing, the schedule of reinforcement. The effect of reinforcement depends heavily on the schedule according to which reinforcers are delivered. The two major type of reinforcement schedules are number one, continuous reinforcement, number two, intermittent, reinforcement. Continual reinforcement schedule means reinforcement is a desired behavior each and every time it is demonstrated. For example, to reinforcement. For example, to reinforce punctuality in an employee that a history of tardiness, the manager might complain the employee whenever he is punctual. The continuous reinforcement reinforces the desired behavior each and every time is demonstrated. And with intermittent or partial reinforcement, on the other hand, not every instance of desirable behavior is reinforced. Intermittent partial schedules are distinguished by whether they are based on time means interval, or number of behavior event, that is ratio. So whether that interval or ratio is fixed or variable, the two-dimension result in four classes of intermittent schedule. The number one, fixed interval schedule. Reinforcement is given after uniform time interval. For example, being paid their salary on a monthly basis. So fixed interval schedule, reinforcement is given after uniform time interval. Fixed ratio schedule, reinforcement is given after fixed number of responses. For example, being paid on piece work basis or being given a day off after serving a specific number of customers. Number three, variable interval schedule. Reinforcement is given after varying time interval. For example, randomly time unannounced visit to a company office by audit staff or getting promotion after undefined time interval. Undefined time interval is related to variable interval schedule. And variable ratio schedule, reinforcement is given after a varying unpredictable number of responses. For example, making a variable number of call to a potential customer for securing a sale. Now we try to comparative study between continuous reinforcement and intermittent reinforcement. Continuous reinforcement produces rapid learning for newly emitted, unstable or low frequency response. Continuous reinforcement produces rapid learning for newly emitted, unstable or low frequency responses. However, continuous reinforcement responses extinguish more rapidly because seek to no reinforcement in sudden, easier to perceive. Now, intermittent reinforcement, on the other hand, produces behavior that is learned more slowly but is more resistant to extinction. It is therefore more appropriate for stable or high frequency responses. The intermittent schedule, the variable one tend to lead to higher performance and produce rapid rate of response in that schedule. Next, managerial implication of reinforcement theory. Reinforcement concepts have been applied in the managerial setting of organization behaviors modification. Managerial implication of reinforcement theory. There are 5-step problem solving model. Number one, identify critical behavior. Everything that an employee does is not equally important in terms of performance outcome. It is therefore important to identify critical or analytical behavior that make a significant impact on the employee job performance. Number two, develop baseline data. It requires the manager determine the number of time the identified behavior is occurring under present condition. Number three, identify behavior consequences. It involves performing a functional analysis to identify the behavioral contingencies or consequences of performance. And number four, develop and implement an intervention strategy. It involves implementing an appropriate intervention strategy that will entail changing some element of performance reward linkage with the goal of making high level of performance more rewarding. Number five, evaluate performance improvement. It requires the observed behavioral change be evaluated to ensure that learning had taken place. Evaluate performance improvement. It requires that observed behavior change be evaluated to ensure the learning had taken place. There are five-step model of problem solving model which can be applied managerial implication of reinforcement theory. In management by objective MBO or OB model, organization behavioral model is very effective. For the managerial implication of reinforcement theory. And now, finally, evaluation of reinforcement theory. Although the effectiveness of reinforcement in the form of reward and punishment has lot of support in the literature, the theory has been criticized for overlooking thought. Main focus reward and punishment. So, evolution or reinforcement theory, the two area, the area number one, or main focus area, reward and punishment. But there are also the overlooking area, that is thought and feeling that are evoked by environmental stimuli. Thought and feeling. So that's why this is highly criticized. The theory assumes that it is not necessary to study a neat or cognitive process to understand motivation, but that is only necessary to examine the consequences. They are not focused on cognitive process. They only focus on the consequences of behavior. However, increasing research on cognitive process has challenged this basic assumption of the theory. So these are the important area of reinforcement theory. This reinforcement theory is one of the unique theory in modern time. Already we have discussed, we have learned the number one content theory, number two process theory, and this is the reinforcement theory. I have a plan. In my next class I will give you the comparative study between process theory, content theory or net theory, process theory and reinforcement theory. Thank you.